Hi, fellow producers. How are you doing this week? This week is a very special week. It's nice to see you guys again. This week we have a special guest on our channel. Her name is Omotayo. Before joining Ebony Life, Omotayo worked with Silverbird Group as a legal executive and had the opportunity to handle film distribution and licensing deals with international studios like United International Picture and Sony Pictures. So we'll be going straight into the interview with Omotayo where we talk about the legalities of contracts, of being in the film space as a film producer and an executive producer or an entertainer. See you soon. My very, very special and able producers out there in the industry. You remember when I tried introducing her earlier on and I gave a very elaborate introduction about Omotayo. Her name is Omotayo Queen Inokoju. Initially, I thought it was Inokoju, but my Yoruba need to work on it. Omotayo, thank you very much. It's nice to have you here. So, how's your week been so far?
Thank you for that beautiful introduction to the way. And I'm so excited to be here, chatting with you, especially about my favorite industry. So I'm so excited to be here. And my week has been so busy. But then, what can we do? Well, thank God we are here. So thank you so much for the invitation. And I'm so excited about having a chat with you about the film industry.
Thank you very much. So our very first question, because we need to like go straight into it, because I know you're very busy. I knew why it took me to bring you here.
I can imagine.
So, the first question is like, can you explain to us or tell us more how you got into the industry and how you got into the legal space in the industry?
So, if I can describe my journey in like just two phrases, I would say it's been eye opening. And I say that because in the course of my close to 10 years in the industry, I've actually seen a lot. Like I said, I would describe it as eye opening. And my journey started when I went to Unilag for my master's in law, and that was about 2017, right? And while doing my master's, I met a friend that was working in Silverbird. He was the head of legal in Silverbird. And of course, we were close, went to class together and did a lot of things together. Fortunately, one afternoon, he was like, "Oh, Montayo, my colleague just resigned. Do you mind working with Silverbird?" I was like, wow, that's one once in a lifetime opportunity. And of course, I jumped at it because this is me. I was just doing my master's, hoping that oh, time I'm done, I'll start serving my CV from office to office. And, such a huge opportunity just dropped on my laps like that. So I just had to take it. And like that, I worked in Silverbird. Silverbird, like they are into exhibition and distribution. So but then during the course of working with Silverbird, I learned a lot in terms of distribution and exhibition. Of course, we distributed for the likes of Sony, the likes of Paramount Pictures, UIP, and all, right? So it was such an amazing experience. But then I knew that if I want to be one of the most sought after film lawyer in Nigeria, I can't do it with just exhibition and distribution experience, right? I needed to also understand what it takes to produce a movie. So that led me to, looking outside of Silverbird, and I started talking to producers, I started sharing my intention to understand filmmaking, film production, the process and legal requirements, right? For producing a film in Nigeria. And luckily for me, I was able to meet some producers that I worked on their projects. One was like, I think it was RFSSC. And years after, I heard about the opening for head of legal in Ebony Life. Immediately I saw the opening, I was like, God, this is for me. So I just sent in my CV, and to God be the glory, I got the job, right? I was so excited because it was just what I needed at that point to take me to where I actually wanted to be in terms of understanding the entire stages of film production in terms of production, exhibition, distribution. And Ebony Life was just like an answered prayer for me. And Ebony Life is like one of the biggest film studios in Nigeria in terms of production and partnerships. So for me, it exposed me to a lot of high class productions, right? Like The Blood Sister, The Baby Farm. And for me, leading the team that handles the legal aspect of all these first class production was, of course, for me, sometimes I feel overwhelmed. But then when I then realized that, wow, this is a lifetime opportunity that exposes me to a lot of knowledge, a lot of legal experience, I just say, oh, thank God for this opportunity. And so far, aside that, I've also been able to educate the film industry as a whole. I create content addressing producers, addressing actors, addressing writers in terms of their legal rights when it comes to the film industry. And so far, like I mentioned before, I've worked on a lot of productions. And recently, I was even named one of the top 7 entertainment lawyers in Nigeria. So that's actually mind blowing, and it's good to know that people are actually noticing. They are watching your contribution to the industry. So that actually wraps it up. Thank you.
Happy to hear you. Congratulations. So from the what you have said so far, it just explains opportunity means preparation. And you see that's why I tell people that most times, if you know you want to go to point Z, you just have to be deliberate and just start preparing from point A, because you don't expect point Z to just meet you at point, let me say, zero. When you have not made plans, you have not prepared for it. And so that brings us to another question. So far in the industry, what are the biggest challenges you have faced or you have noticed in the film production industry in Africa? I don't want us to restrict it to Nigeria, because we have followers also globally outside Nigeria that follows the channel and also watch our content. So what are the challenges so far that you have experienced, especially on the premium productions that you have done so far?
There are a lot of challenges, anyways. And one that easily comes to mind is actually the issue of piracy. And we all know that when it comes to piracy, it's not something that affects Nigeria alone. It is something that's like a pandemic, right? It affects all the entertainment industry that you can think of, in terms of music, in terms of films, in terms of comedy skits and everything, right? Piracy is so huge that even first class countries are still also finding ways to combat it. So, and like I said, it's also applicable in Nigeria, where Netflix release a movie today, and next thing you see it on Telegram, you see it where people are sharing it on WhatsApp. It's just ridiculous. Like, when the movie you've invested 250 million, 300 million is being pirated, it affects the producer's business interest. It affects the producer's business interest. So it's actually a very huge issue that is affecting the film industry, because if you are also watching the film that you are meant to go and watch in the cinemas in the comfort of your house on Telegram, then how do you pay to watch it? Would the producers make back their money? How would the investors that have invested their hard-earned money, how would they make back their money? So piracy is actually a very huge challenge that Nigeria, Africa, and the entire world is actually facing at the moment. And of course, the era of digitalization has not also helped, because to an extent, it made it easier, right, for people to pirate and to watch content illegally. So that's the first one. Then another one is also the issue of copyright infringement. So while copyright infringement has reduced a lot in the first world countries, in Africa, in Nigeria, is still a very, very big issue, in the sense that, number one, a lot of people, even producers, practitioners in the entertainment industry, still don't have enough knowledge about copyright. So also, a lot of people do not know what copyright means. They don't know what infringement is. They don't know that if you have downloaded this film from Telegram, which is not the right platform, you ought to have downloaded it from. What you have done is actually participating in copyright infringement. So a lot of people don't even, so it is when you even understand the concept of copyright that you know that you have infringed on someone else's copyright. And this is actually a very huge issue. And you see producers using artist music as soundtrack in their film without their permission. You see producers using artworks without the right owner's permission. So copyright infringement is actually a very, very huge issue when it comes to the film industry. Another one is also the lack of respect for contracts or even absolute non-existence or non-use of contract, right? So a lot of people first don't feel the need to use contracts. I've been working with this producer for the past 4 years. I've been working with this writer for the past 5 years. Why am I signing a contract with him or her? And some of them that even go to the extent of signing a contract, they do not respect the terms of the contract. They do not regard the terms of the contract. They are like, what's the worst that would happen? You want to sue me? And also, closely related to that is the issue of how long it takes to get redress when your copyright is being infringed upon. That's another thing. And that stems from the fact that there is no dedicated courts for intellectual property related issues. Like you have for the employment issues, you have the National Industrial Court. That you know that once you have an employer-employee issue, you are going directly to that court. But that's not the case in intellectual property. You still have to file in the regular civil court where you have thousands of claims that have piled up already. So those are some of the issues that are currently challenging the film industry at the moment.
That's very huge because in the past I have come to realize, so quite often in the past, when I have conversations with producers, so he has to do me a favor to like pay me back or come and act, which we call as deferral, which a lot of people don't even know that term as being deferral. Like when, oh, you want to work on your production, you don't have money to pay me now. I would be on that production, I will commit to that project. However, when I'm working on my own project, you have to commit as well. As little as that is, a lot of people don't even realize that they even have to have a contract. They don't realize that they have to have a contract, which is very, very sad, but it is what has been working for them. But going forward, after several like conversations and people like I have spoken to in the industry and people like you, it has opened my eyes to so many things when it comes to like contracts here and there. So, and this is what brings us to another question that I have. I know contracts can make or break a production. So, what key clauses should every filmmaker pay attention to in production agreements? Because a lot of agreements are going here and there. A lot of people give out contracts. People are not even patient enough to even go through the contract. So, what are the clauses that everybody should look out for?
Okay, so when it comes to contracts in the film industry, there are a lot of contracts depending on the nature of the transaction that you are going into. Like I always say, when it comes to writing alone, there are several contracts depending on the relationship you have as a producer with the writer. But then, filmmaking is in different stages. You have the development stage, the pre-production, the production proper, and throughout all these phases, there are different types of contracts that must be signed. Maybe let's just say basic contract for a sized budget film. At least before you start, you want to sign a contract with your writer. If you want a third party financier, you need your finance agreement. Then you proceed to maybe your actors agreement, your cast and crew agreement. You look at your location agreement. If you're using spaces that are not yours, so you need to sign a contract with the people whose space you're using. Then also you need to sign for your post production crew members. You need to, if you are distributing in the cinemas, you need to sign your distribution agreements. If you are licensing to digital platforms, you need to sign your license agreements, depending on the nature of transactions you are entering into. But then, basically, what makes a good contract? I would say number one, the contract must be clear and concise. So when I say clear and concise, you are not using legal jargons, you are not using complicated words, right? You want to use words that are easily readable and understandable and also captures the essence of the contract. That's one. Then number two, is your business interest protected? So if you are a producer, does it state that you own the IP in the film? Does it establish the exact role that you are playing? Does it clearly state what you are earning in return as the producer? Does it establish what the other party you are entering into the transaction is also getting in return? Does it specify that, okay, if there is dispute, this is how we would settle this dispute? Then, if you also want to walk away from the transaction in the form of a termination, does it also provide for the processes that you must follow for you to be able to terminate the contract? And finally, is the contract enforceable? Because we can draft all this contract and at the end of the day it's illegal. Or at the end of the day, you signed the contract with a minor that doesn't even have the capacity to enter into a legal relationship. So those are the things that you must consider to ensure that the contract is actually a good contract. But when it comes to the different types of contracts, like I mentioned before, it will depend on the nature of the transaction. So let me just use a film financing contract as an example, life example. So let's say I am the producer and you are the financier. I've approached you to finance my film that is worth about or budgeted to about 2 million naira, and you are willing to invest 150 million. So of course we've agreed you get 150, I'll get 150 million to produce, and you would co-own the project and also earn from it for life. So if we are signing a film financing contract, what should it entail? Number one, it should specifically describe me and also describe you, and also the capacity in that we are entering into the contract. I am entering as a producer, you are entering as a financier. So also, what is my obligation? What are your own obligations? So number one, for me as a producer, I'm supposed to produce the film from start to finish and also take decisions regarding the distributions, right? But for your role, you're supposed to invest and disburse an agreed sum of money. So for me, I want to look out that, okay, you've agreed to give me 150 million, but how would you disburse it? During which duration? How long should it take for you to disburse the money to me? Then I'm also looking at, I want to protect my own IP. I want to solely own IP while you just earn your profits and your capital and keep it moving. Also, I want to protect my own creative decision making rights. I don't want you to, to disrupt my creative vision for the film, regardless of the fact that you are the one financing the project. So these are the terms that you want to look out for. Also, if you don't disburse the money as agreed, what options do I have? Can I terminate the contract with you and go and look for other financiers? Then what do I do? So these are the things that must be contained in the contracts.
So you've basically answered like three questions like I had lined up back. And which is you're right, because a lot of people just receive, you just hear, oh, somebody had extra money, one chairman somewhere had an extra money, and he just called me because he saw that somebody made a lot of money at the cinema and said, can I have this? Can I just invest? Should be an actor, should be a producer.
Mhm.
I see your name, just take this money. And a lot of people take this money without even realizing that this guy doesn't even understand the process. He doesn't even understand that it is a business he's investing in. He might not get that amount of money he has seen producer A or producer B like raised in the cinema. Because now everybody is saying, oh, this is the amount that this certain person has raised in the cinema now. I must produce a movie that goes to the cinema because I want to make this amount of money. But you don't understand what exactly goes into it. And you just receive money for that is not even aware. So when you go back and tell the person that, oh, sorry, the money you gave me, assuming the person gave you 5 million now, and the person in his head is expecting
Want
20,
to make 20 million
you call
euro.
him and tell him, oh, sorry, we didn't even make up to 1 million naira at the end of the day. It's a major issue. And a lot of people don't even have a contract to even seal the process to say, oh, in case this doesn't happen, what happens at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Do I refund your money? They don't even understand that this may arise, clauses may arise, issues may arise that, okay, do I have a clause in the contract that covers my back? A lot of producers don't even have, they just want to receive money, go on set, and just say action without even thinking of the legal issues which may arise at the end of the day. And when issues
Mm.
arise, it just spoils the relationship between the executive producer or the funder, who is your friend or somebody that you know, and yourself, which you don't even need at the end of the day. But that's fine. Thank you for clarifying on that. Now we are in the era of streaming. And the streaming era has changed the game in the African industry. Let me not lie to you. Like things now, you'll be hearing actors in my contract. Am I covered for insurance? Am I covered for this? Am I covered for that? And that's for those that know. There are a lot of people
Mm.
out there don't even know that this is what I'm supposed to have in my contract. So how has the rise of this platform like Netflix, Amazon impacted legal negotiations in Nollywood or in Africa as a whole?
Yeah, so I would say, regardless of the fact that the streamers have pulled back a bit, we cannot deny the impact of their presence in Nollywood. And I would say that because of two things. Number one, they showed producers what is obtainable or what is achievable in terms of exploitation of their intellectual property. So before streamers came to Nigeria, most times when people make films, they just sell it out outrightly, not understanding that there are other ways that you can exploit your film without necessarily parting with your IP. A Netflix and Amazon came and they introduced the industry to a structure where you make your film, you license it to them for a particular duration of time, and they pay you a huge sum of money, exclusively or not. But most times they want an exclusive deal. Then there's another structure where they even give you the money to shoot the film and they exclusively exhibit that film for also a limited period of time. And there's another structure where it is the original. In that case, they own the IP in it. But then it opened producers to the fact that really you don't have to sell your IP each time you want to exploit your film. And the same thing also for the talent in the industry. Actors started seeing what it should be like working under some standard conditions. Like you mentioned, now they are talking about their insurance, now they are talking about medical facility in place. They are now beginning to see that there are some standards that are supposed to be maintained in the industry in terms of negotiation. Now you see actors requesting for back-end fees. Now you see actors requesting for deferred fees. Before then, nobody talks about things like this. All they know is, oh, sell, sell, sell. Nobody's using licensing. Nobody is using licensing, deferment, and all those terms. Nobody was actually using it before the streamers came. But then, after the streamers came, they showed us what was possible. And of course, it grew the industry. Then the second thing is also closely related to standard, but in terms of requirements for film production. So before now, or before the streamers came, people just wake up in the morning, send email. That's even if there is email, or it could be a WhatsApp chat. And like, I'm shooting in the next 10 days. Oh, I want you on set as the DOP. I want you on set as the director. Nobody was signing contract. Nobody's signing contracts with writers. Nobody's signing contract with producers sometimes. Nobody's signing contract with directors. Everybody just come together, they work and go. But now, before you can even license your film to Netflix, they want to ensure that your chain of title is accurate. They want to see basic documentation, right? Like your writers' agreements, like your directors' agreements, like your DOP's agreements, like your location release agreements, like your censorship certificates, like your copyright certificates, any documents that can be used to prove that you actually have the rights to license that film to them. They want to see the documents. And now it has really helped the industry, because now with a contract, you would know that, okay, there was an existing relationship and these were the terms of the relationship, such that if there's any dispute, you can easily refer to the contract and say, this was what we agreed upon. And that standard, though sometimes people fight not to keep it, because for some reasons they just don't want to do what is right. But because they know that if you want to go far with this film, if you want to sell it to the streamers, you just need to do what is right, which is having your proper documentation. Some people don't even have a registered company. Honestly, meanwhile, Netflix will ask you for SPV. So if you don't know what a basic company or business name is, when they tell you SPV, you first be lost and like, what are these people talking again? Well, which one is SPV again in this matter? You get, but then with the advent, would I call it advent now? With the way that the streamers have come to Nigeria, they've been able to put some form of structure in the industry, and in a way we've been able to also maintain and sustain the standard.
Oh, that's nice. Working with streamers, especially outside of your particular region, there are a lot of documents I've come to realize that you need to submit, show them saying, this is what I have, this is what I have, because they don't want to bring in so much money. And at the end of the day, they'll be on set and they will ask you, or somebody comes to ask them, where's your document for this? Everybody will just start looking and they call maybe the production coordinator or they call production manager, oh, we need this on set. And they tell them, oh, I did not get this document, which it can be very annoying and can stall production for a very long time. And I'm happy that a lot of talents now realize that they need this to be in their contracts, because at the end of the day, it's just like you're shortchanging yourself. It's not about the money you can get. Even some talents do not even realize that while you're going into a production, you can also go into an agreement with the producers saying, if I'm on your film, if it makes XYZ amount of money at the cinema, I get this certain percentage. A lot of people do not even, they just want to be on set, they just want to be popular, they just want to be on social media, which is not like, is not even, a lot of people don't even understand. For even you to even move equipment, like saying, apart from you getting equipment from like an equipment company, you moving it outside, or maybe just say from Lagos to like Ibadan, there is a document you need just for you to just show the production company or the broadcaster saying, oh, we have this document to, not even, you need to provide it to broadcasters saying, for every equipment we are moving from point A to point B, we have like a document to cover that. Yes. So it's a lot, but with time, and I believe that we would get there eventually. So another question we have is, so what steps should indie producers of indie filmmakers, and when we say indie, independent filmmakers or producers, what steps should they take legally to protect their work internationally? Because a lot of content are being taken outside of Africa. I know some countries like South Africa are into co-treaty with like the UK and the rest of it. Nigeria doesn't have a co-treaty when it comes to production, which also supports tax credit at the end of the day. That's a conversation for another day, which we don't have tax credits in Nigeria, but I'm aware in South Africa, Rwanda, Morocco, and in some other African countries, they benefit from tax credit. That's why they're able to like go into co-treaty agreements and do co-productions across different regions or countries or globally. But what steps should a producer or independent producer take to protect their work internationally?
Okay, so I would say there are actually two steps that you can take widely or broadly to protect your film. So one is the technological means, and the second is the legal means. So technological in the sense that just using technological measures to protect your film. So when it comes to the legal aspect of it, I would say copyright. So when it comes to intellectual property, especially as it relates to film, copyright is actually the main type of intellectual property that protects films. And that's because it is an expression of the producer's creativity. So if that is the case, it is then protected by copyright. And when a creative work is protected by copyright, it means that once the work has been created in a fixed format, it is automatically protected, regardless of whether it has been released publicly or not. Once it is created, and it is in a fixed format that people can actually relate to it or watch or perceive in any form, it is automatically protected by copyright. But then I don't advise producers to just rely solely on the organic protection that copyright offers. So I advise that they go further by also registering or lodging their copyright with the Nigerian Copyright Commission. And what this actually does for you is that it gives you an extra layer of protection in the sense that, number one, when you register your copyright, you are issued a certificate of registration, which serves as an evidence that you actually own the film. So let me give you a live example. I have a client that I think he was just scrolling through the internet one day and he noticed that one app or website was actually advertising his film that it is showing now on a platform that he never gave the permission to show the film. So what did he do? He just called me and I was like, we need to take down this film. We need to write to the person that owns the website to notify him that we never gave him the permission and we never actually collected any fee from him to exhibit my client's film. And we also wrote to the what's it called now? I think the host, the company that was hosting his website. We wrote to them to take down that particular website and the film on it. So when the host company wrote back to us, they actually requested for evidence that we own the film. And that's actually to guide against unscrupulous reports like that. So what we did was just to attach its copyright certificate together with the notice and the other information that we gave to the host company. And immediately they brought down that website and the film. So these are the things that you tend to enjoy when you register with the NCC and you get a certificate. Number two, the registration also serves as a notice to the public that you own the copyright in the film, such that if they want to do anything with the film, maybe someone that wants to do a remake of the film or wants to adapt the film into a book, the person can easily go to the registry and get your information from there to, reach out and you can, make more money from adaptation, from licenses, and all that. Then thirdly, if anybody infringes on your copyright and you want to sue the person, of course, when you get to court, you have an already made evidence. At least to an extent, it would protect you and also help you prove your case that you actually own copyright in the film, except the person, the infringing party, now have an overriding evidence that he or she owns that. So that's why I always advise my clients that they register their film with the Copyright Commission. Then the second way to also protect your film is actually to always use contracts. So when you use the contract, it is clearly defined on the face of the contract in white and black that you own the film, such that if anybody wakes up tomorrow, maybe it's the director or the actor or the writer that wants to come and claim ownership, or even a financier that wants to come and claim ownership over the film, you know that you have an evidence in form of a written contract. So if it's a financier, just pull out your film financing agreement and say this was what you signed 3 or 4 years ago, and it clearly states that I, the producer, owns the intellectual property in the film, and you only have a right to make money or earn dividends from the project and not that you own the intellectual property in the film. Then another thing is to always police your work. Police your work. And I will say this because if you don't know that your work is being infringed on, how do you even protect it? So you must ensure that you check out your work on different platforms, especially platforms that you know that they always upload content and you are sure that you didn't give them permission. So, or you can even just do a random Google search of your work from time to time and see where it pops up from. Ensure that you police your work such that if anybody infringes on it, and funny enough, infringement is actually a way of making more money. You get, because when people infringe on your work, then you have the opportunity to sue them and request for damages. So maybe if they had come to you to seek license to use the work, you would have charged them 600,000. But now that they have infringed, you can actually charge them 20 million instead because they have to pay for that infringement. You get, so you must always try or put facilities, or it could be technological measures. It could be maybe your content ID system, things that you have on YouTube, such that if your work pops up anywhere, it immediately notifies you and you'll be able to confirm that that is legit or it is not legit, right? Then finally, make sure that you work with a lawyer that understands intellectual property. Because it's not all the lawyers that actually understand intellectual property. There are the oil and gas lawyers, there are finance lawyers, there are real estate lawyers, that once in a while they just stroll into film production, regardless of the fact that they don't really understand the business of filmmaking. But because they are your brother, because they are your uncle, because you want to cut costs, right? You just invite these people and they just tell you, oh, the contract is fine, just sign. Meanwhile, they don't understand what was written in the contract. So it's not only to even work with lawyers, make sure that you work with lawyers that actually understand intellectual property law.
Okay, so you said two things that I noticed. So you said the other party and evidence that can counter your own. How does that work? Then secondly, I realized that no matter how you want to police your movie, people change title. So how do you now police it? How do you now do that? Because you can't be on every screen at every time saying, oh, I need to monitor if my movie is here. I need to monitor if my movie is here. People do things that you will not even think about, like you won't even plan. So how do you now work to prevent all of that?
Okay, so when it comes to ownership, right, there are different layers of ownership. For example, when you write a script, you are the author of the script, right? But then you can still transfer your authorship, your ownership in the script to a producer that now makes the script into a film, right? Then even the producer can wake up tomorrow and say, I'm selling this project to Netflix to become Netflix exclusive, such that I can no longer license it to any other third party, right? Those are layers of ownership. When the writer wrote the script, the writer could have gone to the registry to copyright or to register the script as a copyright. When the producer got the right, the producer could have gone to the registry to also copyright the film, maybe not the script at this stage, right? But now that the producer has also sold the film to Netflix, so if there is a dispute, what happens? The writer brings his or her own copyright certificate. The producer brings his or her own copyright certificate. What would Netflix have to bring? Especially if Netflix have not registered the film with the Copyright Commission. So sometimes people might actually have overriding evidence to prove that they actually own copyright. So, and such overriding evidence could mean contracts. If after the producer has copyrighted the film, he then signs a contract transferring the film to Netflix. If Netflix wants to prove ownership, it's just for them to produce the contract to say on so day, you transferred the copyright in this same film to me. That way Netflix has been able to present an overriding evidence. And let me even give you an example. The recent case of Domitila. I don't know if you heard about the case, Anne Jameze and the producer. So Anne actually trademarked Domitila. And you know, she only acted in the film, but she trademarked Domitila the title. And you know, there was a reboot, I think in 2023 or 2020, yeah, 2023. So they made a reboot that showed on Netflix in 2023. So it was at the point where they were marketing, doing promotion, that Anne Jamize now raised the issue that she owns the trademark in Domitila, and the producer was never aware that she had already trademarked it. Yes. So they took the case to the trademark registry, and the trademark registry actually gave judgment in favor of the producer that Anne Jameze registered the trademark in bad faith, meaning, oh, she knew that this trademark actually belongs to the producer, but she still went ahead. So what the court did, what the trademark registry did, was to set aside a trademark, meaning this trademark certificate was issued in bad faith. So they set it aside, more like cancelled the registration. But I think some few minutes ago now, I read that she has appealed that trademark registry's judgment. So now they are back in the high court. So this is how it works. So you just have to you need to keep having layers and layers and layers of evidence to prove that you own this thing. So that anytime somebody comes from anywhere with some form of, oh, it's my own, it's not my own, you are ready. Say, no, this is my work, and this and this and this and this are the evidence that I have that this work belongs to me. So yes.
Wow,
And
that's
the second, this the second question in terms of policing. So like you rightly said, people play different types of Jimmy just to defraud people or misrepresent films, right? And that reminds me, sometimes back, Femi Adebayo also got judgment in the court where one person had used the poster of his film to sell an entirely different film. You know what they do in YouTube, on YouTube rather, where they they put a particular poster as thumbnail. Then when you click, you're watching an entirely different film. So that was what happened. And Femi Adebayo actually sued, and he got 20 million or 25 million in damages. Yes. Yes. So, but when it comes to policing, I think the best way to actually go about that is through technology. Like I tried to explain the other time, there's something that is called content ID system on YouTube. So where when you have the ID, more like identification details for your content, anywhere that content comes up on YouTube, it immediately notifies you, right, that this particular content has been uploaded. So it notifies you so you would know what to do next. So if it's someone that you have given permission, it's just for you to say, oh, this person has my permission to do it. If the person has not given you permission, then you can then file a takedown notice, or you request that the person pay you for licensing the content. So then it's just for you to just take technological measures, and there are a lot of it, to protect your work and to also get alerts whenever your work is being infringed.
that's nice. That's nice. Who has measures to bring down contents that are not like they're falsified, or maybe someone just took advantage of somebody's poster. But I didn't even hear about the Femi Adebayo case, and he received, well, that's good money now, at least.
But it's still not enough, honestly. It's still not enough. It's small. 5 million is small. Yes. Do you know how long they've been in court? He would have paid lawyers. He would have wasted his time, exerted resources and energy into the case. 25 million is not much. It's not, honestly. If you consider everything that goes into filmmaking, you know that 25 million naira is peanuts.
Well, you're right. Anyway, 25 million naira is not a lot compared to when you hear some amount of money that when
Yes.
budget of some amount of some producers receive on sets, which I have been previewed to, like when you hear the amount of money, you're like, okay, this is the now you have. And when you tell them this is like good money, they'll tell you, no, this is nothing compared to the last production I was involved in. And I'm like, okay, this is good money. So this is what then this now brings us to, so what are the, okay, like now you talked about the legal tips to every filmmaker, because which was part of questions I wanted to ask next. But if I could ask a question, let me just say this is like be the final question. If you could change one thing about the legal framework in the film industry, what would it be?
I would say contracts should be respected. Contract, yes, contract should be respected because I believe that if only people could actually regard contracts more, most of the issues that we are having, we would not be having it in the industry, right? So you see actors going on set late, you see producers waiting for actors to come and drag them on social media before they pay their money. You see writers duplicating scripts for 2, 3 producers. It's actually so disturbing the kind of things that people do in the industry simply because they disregard the terms of their contracts. I don't know if you heard about the case with Omoni recently, where she had to take down her film because one writer gave like 3 producers the same script, though at different times though. But then giving 3 producers the same script is another level of witchcraft. So you just hear these things and you're like, in which world? In which world would you even do that? So for me, I actually look forward to a Nollywood where everybody is open to negotiating and signing a contract. And not only that, but also regarding the terms of the contract, abiding by it, enforcing it properly. And if we're able to do that to an extent, there will be less disputes, there will be less dragging on social media. You get so that's actually one key thing. If I had superpower, that's one one key thing that I would actually do.
Wow,
Yes.
that's nice. And something that I wish they could do more in the industry is having more structured union. I know they have guilds, but like the unions that I'm aware of, before you can, if a talent is unionized, because they are unionized and they are non-unionized, it depends on where you want to go to.
Yes. Yes.
I know as a non-union talent, you can decide on any project you want to do, you can decide on, but that doesn't mean that you will not respect contracts because contracting is a big deal.
If there's even a union, you have a standard in terms of
Yeah, so if having
yes,
union as well, they should be able to protect every talent because
yes,
you
their
were
members.
union for talent. Before you can reach out to that talent, you have to go through the union.
Yes.
They have their rates. And when I
So
see rates,
that that's the least that you can do. That's the least.
yes, and when I see these rates, man, good rates.
The rate is rating.
Is rating, oh, is rating. So if we can have the guilds or something like that, be very, very deliberate about the talent, it will make more sense. And I feel that like insurance companies need to like
True.
come into the industry like the likes of Ansa Mansard, Leadway. I know there are a lot of insurance companies and banks because I found out that in other parts of the world, there are banks that are dedicated to the film industry. Like that's what they do. Like every other thing, when it comes to funding, they check your documents, they bring like they tell you, okay, this is what we need, this is what we need, this is what, and they will deliberately fund your production. And whenever they see that anything is happening in the entertainment industry, you would see them there supporting the industry like any other thing. So something for me is I wish I could see more of that. Insurance companies like having like insurance for talents, like HMO for talent, those kind of things. I know it might cost a bit because
And these are actually the things that a structured union, an active union can actually lobby for and get. So these are things that should actually be things that a proper union to
And if
actually
you have insurance,
work towards.
if any producer wants an actor, you know that in
Mm,
person's contract, you're supposed to pay this for this person. It goes into
mm,
so for each job you get, every producer is doing this. In that insurance, you understand for you, if it's life insurance,
yes.
anything can happen. But I don't see that. But I wish it's something that we eventually see in the industry and things get better. It's not happening backwards again. And when it comes to film distribution, that's another big major part that it needs a lot of conversation around. It needs a lot of conversation. I know things will get better in the industry, and like our viewers, you've heard our very big lawyer, Omotayo Queen, Inokoju. I got it right, Abby.
Yes, you did. You did.
I'm trying. My Yoruba is getting better. So we have. Thank you very much, Omotayo, for this session. Thank you for your time. I had fun basically, and I'm sure the viewers also learned one or two things that can help them going forward into having like a film business structure or working as a producer. What are the things that they should look into? And we'll be dropping Omotayo's Instagram handle. So if I reach out to her, answer one or two questions, I know she's that open. She's not the kind of person that likes to hold information to her chest, or like some lawyers that'll tell you, "Yeah, come and pay for everything." She's kind enough to like share out information. And if you follow her on her LinkedIn page as well, you'll notice that she shares information about what you should do as a producer, what you should do as a writer at the end of the day. Thank you very much, Omotayo. It's nice to have you on our channel.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.